Okay, I won't be whistling bad mamma jamma as I'm recording. Okay. It could be considered offensive to some people. And I guess it's not a bad thing. Okay. So, you ready for your review on this? Where'd all my whiteboards go? Yeah, that's good. Oh well. Okay. So, not sure what, they should have a picture of my little rat on there. It's not the right me that's logged in. This is my home Google account, not my school Google account. I mean, yeah, this is it. Okay. So, I'm going to draw this. This and that. Are you done? Undocumented computer features. All right, so anybody watching the live stream realizes Weinert cannot use a computer. Looks like a turnip. Okay. So I'm going to draw the axon terminus, very large. That's fine, I can deal with that. Okay. So, we're also going to draw this today. Okay, so, what are these things called? Dendrites, good. Okay, what do they do? Don't say signals anymore, you know more than that. Sort of. The chemical messages occur on this very large outcropping, which is not really. This is called a... Man, this computer's doing weird things today. Called a dendritic spine. So I drew this very large bulbous dendritic spine, and the reason why it is enlarged to scale so we can kind of understand how it works. It's really anywhere an axon connects or goes across, anywhere an axon goes across a dendrite, or even another axon, it can create one of these things. Okay, anywhere they connect, it can create one of these things. So it's two neurons that come close together. So if I draw another little neuron here, it's where that other neuron's axon just touches. Just not even touch, just comes close to. Can you form connections almost anywhere across an entire neuron? Yes. You can form connections almost anywhere across any other part of the neuron. Okay, the more myelinated it is, the less likely it is to create new connections. Okay, so if I have a big batch of myelin here, and what is myelin made out of? Fat, lipid molecules. Okay, and because if this myelin is here, the axon doesn't transmit any ions back and forth where this myelin is located. So when this myelin is located here, then the neuron's a lot more efficient. Like the nerves. Like when you have in your neck, you have a nerve right back here. It goes right down underneath your scapula. Okay, and then it goes all the way down to the radial nerve right here, and then goes all the way down to your fingers. Did anybody ever pinch a nerve in their neck and they feel their fingers go zing? You know exactly what that nerve is. My wife gets irritated. Well, she just gets irritated in general. But she gets irritated, and it's right under her spine, right here, right under her scapula. But it's not actually her shoulder that hurts, it's her neck. And so all I have to do is I just kind of, these two muscles on the sides of her neck, by kind of rubbing those a little bit and kind of stretching her arm out, all of a sudden her nerve stops hurting in her arm. So why not just find the muscle that's sore down in here and just start mashing on it? All that's going to do is hurt. And it's fun if you're giving a massage to someone and you find a spot that really hurts and boink. Does that hurt? Does that hurt? Does that hurt? Is that fun? Fun to me. Okay. So, but again, But if you understand the nerve, if the nerve is being pinched somewhere along the path, is it going to send action potentials down its length? Yes, that's what acupuncture does. Acupuncture goes in and activates nerves and opens up channels in neurons so that they can activate or deactivate, depending on what the effect is having. Has anybody ever had acupuncture in here? Okay, what did you have it stuck into? Where did you get bobbed? From running? Yeah. Where, like on the edge of your knee or below? Ow. Okay, sorry. I pulled my trap when I was in college. We were lifting weights, and I pulled this big muscle right here. And when I pulled my trap, it really sucks, and you don't realize how often you use these muscles in your shoulders. Have you ever pulled one? Okay, you're nodding like you would understand that. So it's, but at the same time so it was a big knot back here, and the trainer tried to massage the knot out, because if you leave the knot there, it builds scar tissue and then it doesn't move as much anymore. So they just stuck a bunch of needles around it, and it caused the knot to loosen up. Once the knot loosened up, the muscle fibers lined up, and it can grow back and be just as strong. But if the muscle fibers are like this, when it heals, what happens? It's going to stay like that. And the next time you strain yourself, it rips again. A friend of ours tore his Achilles, old people injury. And the doctor didn't sew it back together. You'd think you'd want to sew it back together, right? But turns out, if you put your foot flat and have the cast of your foot like this, and as long as the sheath is intact, guess what the tendon does? Regrows. The muscle atrophies, the tendon stretches out and regrows to where it should, and then you slowly strengthen the muscle back up again, and he's back at full speed. No surgery. Crazy. Okay, sorry. Love that stuff. So, we have our dendritic spine. Does it have to be on a dendrite? That's the key. No. Okay? These spines, we call them dendritic spines, but these spines can occur anywhere. Mostly they occur on dendrites. But these spines can occur anywhere. What are the end bulbs? What's another word for that? Called axon termini or axon terminus. End of the axon. Ready? Go. Okay. So, do these have to be at the end of an axon? Could we actually grow one right here? What movie is that? Wreck-It Ralph? That's my brother. Okay. Can I grow an axon terminus there? Yes. Yeah. Some neurons don't even have axons. They just have termini. They're called microneurons. Or local neurons. Well, yeah. They call them micro because, So, but again, so we can have all sorts of complexity within this. Why do we just talk about it in a simple linear fashion right now, though? Just so it's easier to understand. You get the basics, and then we make it more complicated. So what causes a neuron to send electrical signals? Okay, so I'm going to put ATP here because that's really important. ATP does what to create electrical signals? Yeah. So the ion gradients that we have, I'll bet the battery in the pen's down. Okay. The ion gradients that we have is we have a lot of sodium outside and a lot of potassium inside. Why is there more sodium on the outside and more potassium on the inside? Well, because there's only, zoom a little bit. really struggling today with this. Okay. There's only potassium channels. They're called pores. Potassium is allowed to flow back and forth. But what is sodium? Is sodium allowed to flow back and forth? No, because the channel that allows sodium to come through, oh, that's a big fat channel, has got a gate on it. So the sodiums keep getting kicked out. Sodiums keep getting kicked out by the pumps. Potassiums get kicked out, but they're allowed to flow back in. So ATP is what is used to generate resting potential. When the cell is at rest, it's primed for action. It's ready to send electrical signals. Okay? When the cell is at rest, it's primed to send electrical signals. Ready to go. So now, we're going to go back here. In my giant bulbous dendritic spine, and I drew a receptor. This is a glutamate. This glutamate receptor, when glutamate, I'm going to draw a little molecule here. Technically this is serotonin, but I don't know how to draw glutamate. When the chemical message attaches to the receptor, what flows in? Specifically glutamate. What flows in? We did draw that. Sodium. I don't expect you to memorize all of this stuff yet. So sodium flows in. Where's the sodium going to go? Well, it's going to go into the soma first. And the charge in the soma can start to become extremely positive. If the charge in the soma becomes positive, what does it do to the charge at the axon hillock? If we add some positive people into the room, what happens? The positivity in the room increases. What if we add some negative folks in here? So anybody remember the neurotransmitter for negative influences? GABA. What is the negative ion influence? Chlorine. Primary inhibitory chemical in the brain is GABA. It lets chlorine into the cell. If I let chlorine into the cell, what's going to happen to these soma's charge? It's going to either neutralize the positive or make it go negative. Either way, it's going to bring it down. We call this inhibitory postsynaptic potential. What do we call the sodium? Excitatory postsynaptic potential. Sorry, non-color consistency. So how do I decide at my axon hillock if I should send a signal or not? There's a key word. Can't just keep listening to you. You're right, but it's fun. People with a good bio background, you're like, please, someone answer this. This is obvious. Most psych majors are like, I'm so confused right now. Okay. So, if I bring one positive person into the room, is that going to change the entire room? What if I build a little pile of positively flowed extroverts into the room? All the negatively charged emo introverts, probably not politically correct, I apologize. Okay? But if you have a bunch of negative people in the room, what happens to the timbre of the room, the way that people feel? They add together and they become more negative. I always tell people this after test. If you don't do well in a test, don't hang out with the other people who didn't do well. Because then you commiserate and you feel worse. Why do the people who do really well in the test not want to talk to those negative people? They feel guilty. I did really well. You didn't. Oh. Did you study? Yeah, a lot. Oh, I did. Okay, so what happens is that these things summate. What does the word summate mean? Yeah, they group. We can have spatial summation or temporal. So the answer to this is pretty simple. Spatial summation is more than one spine is getting the same stimulus. Spatial is over space. Spatial summation, more than one spine is getting the information. So what do you think temporal means? Yeah, frequency. So when they were kebabbing your leg with the thing, did they get a nerve? Did you feel one? All of a sudden the muscle goes. What that is you are seeing what's called temporal summation. The needles are very thin that they stab you with. So what they do is they pinpoint very specific nerves in which to stimulate. So that needle is not a very large area of stimulation, but it's a very high frequency. When you stick something metal into a nerve, it's too tinfoil sometimes. That's what it feels like. Okay? But when they put that in there, it's temporal. Very high frequency of action potentials come out of that nerve right away. And you can feel it. It's really kind of cool. It's like, and then eventually it goes, ah. What if they hit a pain fiber? Did they stab one and it hurt? Yeah, when they get a pain fiber, what happens? High frequency, very sharp pain. When I had my shot in my heel, my plantar fasciitis, I got a cortisone shot. He's poking around here, 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 and he's finding the spot that hurts the most. Then he stabs the needle right in that spot. And I'm like, ah! And he's like, there, got it. The more it hurts, the more effective it is. I think podiatrists are really sadistic. Not important. Okay. But, so what would spatial summation be then versus temporal? Several locations at the same time. Anybody ever found a stinging nettle plant? What does it feel like? Yes, you know, stinging nettle. How is it different than... Right, but it's not just in one tiny little spot. That's the best part about a stinging nettle. It's like if you get the leaf on your hand, it's the whole area where that is all of a sudden hurts. Because a single stinging nettle really is not that painful. What makes it hurt? The space around it. The more of that plant you touch, the more it hurts. If you get enough of it, there's actually a type of thistle called star thistles. Have you ever run on the trails up here? By the bridge and out that way? There's these little yellow flowers. They look like little mustard flowers, but they have these little spike balls on the end. When we go mountain biking, especially in the summer and near the end of the summer when they start drying out, they are vicious. And my shins get completely covered with rashes because of these things. And of course, when you're mountain biking, you don't care, but when you get home and you're trying to sleep and live, you're miserable. But that's spatial summation. One tiny little pinpoint, that's not going to hurt. But what happens if it's over a large area? Every single one of these is starting to let a little bit of a neurotransmitter called histamine in. Every single one. And if everyone's just letting a little bit in, what happens in the soma? Reaction potential. Versus one letting a ton of sodium in with a tiny little needle versus a large area. See the difference? So, go ahead. Yeah, spatial is small stimuli over a large space. Temporal stimulation is one single stimuli, but for a long duration. But both of them cause the same. Why are we talking about this called summate? Why would you put an antihistamine on your thistle? Never thought I'd ask that question in class. Well, so if the thistle is letting histamine into your skin, causing it to itch, what would I put on it? Antihistamine. So I put a chemical that blocks histamine on your skin. So your skin's trying to produce the histamine to cause the pain. So you put an antihistamine to block the chemical. So what does that do to the summation in the axon? So you're still producing the stimulus, you've still got the rash on your skin. When you put the antihistamine on it, it blocks the histamine's effect on your skin. So you block the summation. By blocking the summation, the transmitters aren't activating the cell anymore. When the transmitters aren't activating the cell anymore, the axon doesn't, it feels fine. I got poison oak once while mountain biking, and I didn't notice it, and then that afternoon, went and sat in the hot tub. Is that a good idea? No, because what happens when you sit in really hot water without soap? What happens with the oils from the spreads? So I had pretty much, it looked like wherever I was sweating when I was riding was poison oak. So it looked like, well, if I stood there, it looked like I was wearing bike shorts and a bike jersey. But it was red, puffy rash. It was amazing. And when I went to the doctor at San Diego State, they're like, ooh, that's what I got. Thanks. One shot of cortisone and blocks the histamine reaction and next morning was gone. Pretty amazing. The spot where I actually got the poison oak up on my shoulders was still itchy. But the rest of me, completely fine. Very unpleasant. Okay, good time. That was a good job. Okay, so now, why do we care about summation? What does summation do for transmitters? What does summation have to do with transmitters? We're not even close to the body yet. We're at one neuron. The whole reason that we have this summation is to change the frequency of action potential. Does every neuron have its own, does it summate on its own? Every neuron has its own frequency called spontaneous firing rate. Every neuron leaks a little bit. Your eyeballs leak a lot. The nerves inside your eyeballs leak way more. And as a result, they're constantly firing. Your cells in your eyes are constantly firing. And because they're constantly firing, we can see subtle changes in light very quickly because they're very, very high spontaneous firing rate. All we have to do is change that firing rate just a little bit. As soon as there's a change in the firing rate, the change in the firing rate changes this word. Quanta. What does quanta mean? The amount of transmitter. So the amount of transmitter changes the quanta. The amount of transmitter produced changes the quanta. So that anytime we change the frequency of a cell, it changes the quanta, the amount of transmitter present. That's the whole reason we have action potential, is to change what's going on inside this postsynaptic or presynaptic terminal, axon terminal, end bulb, terminal button, same thing. So, I want to draw this again, and I'm going to draw it bigger so you can kind of see how it works. And I had a really cool example that Stefania, she's not here today. She came up after class, we were talking about this after class, and she was trying to figure out exactly how does this actually work? And so I happened to have a big box of balloons in my office, because, you know, everybody should. So if you have a balloon, right? What makes a balloon stick to the wall? Charge. So you take a balloon, your wool hat would be epic. Okay, but if we just go rub it on your hair, go and stick it to the wall. Why does it stick to the wall? The electrical charge attracts it to the negative charge on the balloon, attracts it to the positive charge on the wall. How do I get rid of that positive charge on the balloon? You can do this for kids if you're one of you new. All you need is a little bit of misty water. So the kids are like going the balloons and sticking them on the wall, and they think it's so funny and great. A cat spritzer, bad kitty. Okay? Just turn it on the really misty setting and go. Tss. And as soon as the water molecules hit the surface of that balloon, what do? They neutralize all of those positive and negative charges. The water molecules absorb those charges. And when the water molecules absorb all those charges, the balloon just goes, what? And then the kid tries to make it work, and it doesn't work because it's slightly damp, and you're just getting your hair wet. So next time it's a Super Santa Ana day, we should take you and run you down the slide. Because what happens when you have fine hair? It's not frizzy, it just comes out like a nice poof. Excellent. Okay, so, but the idea of trying to figure out exactly how this works, we have to dig down inside the end bulb. Sodium is coming in up here. Sodium is a positive charge. So far, so good. How is the end bulb different? What does it let in? Voltage activated. Calcium gate. Calcium binds to these little balloons in here. What are these little balloons called? Come on. It's not appropriate. I remember them as testicles, but they're not testicles. They're vesicles. Okay, vesicles. It's stupid, it's sleazy, it's slightly inappropriate, but you remember it. The little round circle? Yeah, because you could draw the other one and never mind. Okay. Okay, so but the vesicle, see how that, you can remember it now? Yeah, sorry. I apologize. Okay, the vesicles have the transmitters in them. Why do we keep the transmitters in these little membrane sacs? Balls, if you will. I'm sorry. Okay, why keep them transmitters inside? Well, it keeps them from activating elsewhere in the neuron. These are very chemically charged particles. It's like just leaving your gasoline in a bucket at your house. Is that a good idea? No, you keep the gas somewhere separate from most other things because the fumes are volatile. They're toxic. So if you keep your gas in a closed container, it's fine. Not next to the water heater. Okay? And so, but by keeping our volatile chemicals in these little vesicles, as soon as the calcium comes in, the calcium binds to the vesicle. And it causes, it's like rubbing the hair. All of a sudden, that vesicle's got a charge. And it's going to look for a receptor. So I'll just draw one down here that's attached. And when it attaches, what comes kicking out? Not sodium. Calcium. Calcium comes popping out, and some of the transmitter pops out with it. And it squeezes out, transmitter goes out, calcium goes out, and then the vesicle goes whoosh. As soon as the calcium leaves, it detaches. But as it detaches, it's called reuptake. It allows the transmitter to get sucked back up. So far, so good. Transmitter gets pushed out, and then when the calcium releases, the vesicle re-expands, and some of the transmitters suck back up in there. So this reuptake is actually important. So, okay, so it's funny how we say it last week, and nobody gets it. Then I say it this week, and does it make a lot more sense? One person nods. Good. That's all I said. Okay. So, just in a bigger picture, can an N bulb stay positive? See people nodding. Can an N bulb stay positive? Yes, is the correct answer. So, if I have a very high frequency of action potentials coming down here, I have a lot of sodium flowing down here. What is the sodium constantly being done once it gets down here? What do I keep doing with it? I pump it out. And in fact, there's a lot of pumps down here. And there's a lot of mitochondria down here as well. Some people believe that the mitochondria in your N bulbs are what cause depression. Follow logic here. What does depression feel like? Okay. All right, we're done. Okay. No. But it's not necessarily just sadness. You feel tired, and you feel like you want to sleep, but you can't sleep well. It doesn't feel like, it's not the energy that's lacking, it's the motivation to move that's lacking. And it's a lack of the ability to stop thinking. Which is, when you start really thinking about it, depression is caused by thinking too much. That's what? Anxiety is caused by thinking too much. They're different, though. They have different components. They have different neurotransmitters that work on them. But I've learned a lot in my last 30 years of doing this, and I finally start to understand that depression is where you can't tell yourself to stop. And everybody has done this at least once or twice when you got a lot of crap to do. You end up walking in a small circle, and you have no idea where to start. Sitting in stats, looking at the computer going, I don't know where to start. That's the first thing that everybody does. Stats-induced depression. We should study that. Okay. But, start at the very beginning. Okay. But what happens is that if you can't initiate or stop a thought, what we can do is we can increase the amount of transmitters that summate inhibitory signals. I can give you transmitters that increase inhibitory signals. If I can increase your inhibitory signals, increase your stop signals, what can you do? You can think about not thinking. Hate psychology sometimes. So one of the ways of doing that is giving people ECT. Zappy zappy. They zap you, which releases all of your chemicals. By depleting all of your chemicals, does that seem like a good idea? However, by depleting all of your chemicals, you stop all the go chemicals as well as all the stop chemicals. People after a seizure generally feel very relaxed and calm. And what do they think about? Nothing. This is kind of sad. My friend Jake has epilepsy, and his dad, Jake's my age, his dad has got colon cancer and a bunch of other problems right now. And it kind of sucks because what's he going to do? He can't work because of his epilepsy. And he has probably 2 seizures a week. And they're not bad, debilitating seizures, but he can't drive. And he has a medical alert bracelet saying, unless I've fallen and hurt myself, please don't call 911. Because he's going to the hospital. Did you get the card? She's going to give it to you immediately? Okay. Thank you. Good job. Okay. Be very careful when you're trying to register for a class. Because when was the last day to register? Well, Monday, technically. But I'm on the petitions committee. Let me know if you need help. I got you. Okay. I advocate for every one of you. Okay. There's rules, though, and laws. Yeah. Oh, well, whatever. I don't care. People first. Okay. So if I deplete all of my chemicals, what do you think? If I deplete all my chemicals, you're calm. What does your body do if you deplete all of your chemicals? It takes time, but you start growing more mitochondria. So this is actually kind of fun. If you ever decide to start working out, if you've never worked out in your life, the first month of starting to work out sucks horribly. Awful, awful, awful. If you've taken any time off and then you try to get back into it, it's absolutely miserable. Because what happens is if you don't exercise regularly, your body doesn't produce the same amount of mitochondria. This happens to a lot of actually returning veterans. If you've been in boot camp or you do physical PT every day. You do PT every day. And they get out and like, I'm never doing that again. Their bodies downgrade their mitochondria. So what happens with their daily energy levels? They go down. The ability to concentrate and think goes down. The reason the military does make you exercise every day because they know it helps you become a better person. They don't care that you enjoy it or not because they understand the machine, not the person. Okay, but if you start exercising regularly, what does exercising mean? Walking uphill, increasing your heart rate. Not too much. Okay, increasing your heart rate. And by increasing your heart rate or walking uphill, your body starts producing more mitochondria. That's it. Does that make you live longer? Yes. Makes you age less. Does you have to go do CrossFit? Yes, you must do CrossFit. Okay. No anger CrossFit here. But it's something that builds mitochondria. Well, it turns out that there's other ways to build mitochondria too, that you don't need to exercise. Mindfulness training. Learning how to meditate. It builds mitochondria. Okay, enough of that. So, this part of the cell can stay positive. It doesn't action potential. What allows the cell to release transmitters? The calcium. As long as the calcium is present, the channel will release neurotransmitters. Easy. Okay, so there's these things inside here. What does reuptake do? It removes the transmitter from the synapse. It pulls it back up. Removes it from the synapse. We also have enzymes. I like to think of enzymes as Pac-Man. What do they do to the poor neurotransmitters? They take them apart. So what the enzymes do is the enzymes get in here. There's a couple different enzymes that are present in our bodies that digest these transmitters right away. As soon as the transmitter is present, you digest it. For example, if you try and take dopamine, if you like buy some dopamine and take it, guess what happens? It gives you the diarrhea because it blocks blood vessels. Okay? Another really fun one is Visine. Please be careful with this. Someone just killed somebody recently with Visine. You know, eye drops. What happens if I put my eye drops in someone's water? Explosive diarrhea. More fun to say diarrhea is explosive, isn't it? Because when you take your Visine, it's got that little bit of dopamine that constricts blood vessels, and you put it into their digestive system. Don't do that to somebody. Somebody recently just died from that. No, you can put it in your eyes. Don't put it in your mouth. Yeah, yeah. They say warning on it. Yeah, but if you want to be malicious and you just drip 2 drips into one of your asshole friends' drinks and they drink it, they get massive food. Absolutely, like extract brownie for your teachers. Moving on. Okay, so my favorite one is that somebody spiked the coffee maker at Ramona High School years ago. They put acid in the coffee maker. No. And it's like one of the math teachers thought he was having a nervous breakdown and went to the hospital. And one of the English teachers like, yeah, someone put acid in the coffee this morning. He's like, yeah, this is awesome. It's like, yeah, good time. Okay. It was so funny. Mr. Galush was like, yeah. Like, half of the English department's running to the thing and all the math department's panicking. Okay. But, so, with the enzymes, if you don't have enough of the proper enzymes, your transmitters can get out of balance. And so some people, there's a drug called St. John's wort that you can take. St. John's wort blocks enzymes. So if I block the enzyme, what happens with the amount of transmitter present? It gets higher. There's a danger though. Do you need these enzymes for other things? Yeah, so on the bottle of St. John's wort, if it's actually from a reputable source, it'll say, don't eat eggs. Don't eat chicken. Don't eat yeast. Don't eat beer. Drink beer. Don't fill in all these things. Why can't you eat all of those foods? Without the enzymes, you can't digest those foods. I took a St. John's wort just to see what it would do a couple months ago, not months ago, years ago now. I got the best migraine I've ever had in my life after taking it. It was just amazing. Like full-on visual pain, stabbing. I'm like, wow, that actually has some pharmaceutical kick to it. And of course, I wasn't really paying attention to anything else I was doing. I just wanted to see, because so many people, my students kept asking me about it. I'm like, I'll just take one. Bought them at Henry's for $12 or whatever. Woo! Not that, doing that again. But so most of the over-the-counter stuff is so watered down that it's not really useful. But some of it actually is real. And that's why we got to be careful with over-the-counter stuff that isn't FDA approved. What's the Chinese opiate coffee berry thing that they're selling? Somebody knows this. You can buy it at most of your drug dealers. No, it's not very rude. It's somebody will know what it is. They sell it at a lot of the medical marijuana places. And it basically it's supposed to be a cure for opiates, but it's just a different form of opium that comes in a different kind of plant. And it's just as addicting and just as habit forming. Hey Google, what's that Chinese version of opiate called?
Here's what I found on the web.
Oh, it's fentanyl. Hey Google, what's that all-natural opium derivative that they sell from China?
Here's something from Wikipedia.
That's what. Okay. I hate talking bad to my Google Voice. My son hates your voice now. He's very fucking talking. I'm being bad. I feel bad now that I'm being mean to it. Before, when it's Google Guy, I don't feel too bad. Okay, so anyway. But anytime you have any sort of natural supplements that are supposed to be psychoactive, this is where they're affecting. right here. So the third thing that happens is activation. We talked about this last class, but again, we start simple and we keep adding more detail. So if I have a glutamate receptor, is it ionotropic or metabotropic? What does that mean? What does ionotropic mean? Yay. It's immediate, opens ion channels. Excellent. Okay, so this is glutamate, so it lets in sodium. Okay, serotonin, our little transmitter that's involved with depression, is more complicated. It uses what's called metabotropic. Metabotropic is the second as a second messenger. So metabotropics are second messengers. Second messengers use AMP. We've talked about ATP quite a bit, so these use AMP. This one's showing the description of ADP. Okay, so what is AMP? Adenosine monophosphate. So it breaks off the phosphate, and when I break off the phosphate, this little G protein gets a little bit of phosphate and goes and does stuff. It can make transcription enzymes, it can do all sorts of things when the second messenger gets activated. I still don't understand the chemistry of how this works. I really haven't bothered to try and learn it either, because I just accept it. Wait, if this uses a lot of AMP, what do you think also is lurking around in here? Mitochondria. So you have a lot of mitochondria in where the where the receptors are, the dendritic spines are. So all of a sudden, you start to understand maybe ECT is causing us to grow more mitochondria. I deplete all of my chemicals, and after depleting all my chemicals, my transcription enzymes from the second messenger say, hey, let's build more mitochondria. That's what's kind of fun is if I put up my body weight graph since Thanksgiving, it goes like this. I'm trying to lose about 20 pounds and trying to get down to a, quote, not obese weight for my height. It's really hard. Okay? And I started out pretty squishy, but why do I go through periods of time where I gain weight, lose weight, gain weight, lose weight, gain weight, lose weight? With the net result of me still losing weight, but no, I'm very conscious and very controlled with my eating. Obsessive, if you will. What? There's natural fluctuation. As I go through periods of time, my body will compensate by gaining some weight, and if I panic and cut my calories, I'll actually start gaining more weight. It's stupid. Okay, anyway. But what happens is that as soon as I go through these little periods, I'm growing more mitochondria. And as I grow more mitochondria, what happens with my calorie intake? I have to increase my calorie intake, and if I increase my calorie intake, I slowly start losing weight again. It's really frustrating, because you can't look at it from day to day to day. You have to look at it over the long term. And that's what's funny about this is that your brain is the same way as your body. So you have a period of time when you're very stressed. So what happens? You start using a lot of transmitter. If you use a lot of transmitter, you start depleting the transmitter. The quanta goes down. When a quanta goes down, especially of a chemical called serotonin, you feel depressed. The side effect of using ecstasy is depression. Well, that's like a lot of times when someone uses an ecstasy, which is an amphetamine, mixed with serotonin stimulators, I flood my body with serotonin at the same time as flooding it with dopamine, which makes you feel good. And all of a sudden I can concentrate and I can think and it feels good. What happens when they both wear off? I don't feel so good. you feel crappy from leftover dopamine. But then you also can't motivate. And has anybody heard the student that was in here before? He was, he really is under the impression that he is the best person ever. However, what the thing is that he's also said is he goes, oh yes, and he starts talking about Adderall. Like, well, yeah, if you use cocaine, you feel the same way too. I mean, if you start using cocaine a lot, guess what? You feel like you're the best person in the room all the time. Because it changes those motivation circuits in your brain. And it was funny, I wasn't going to call him out on any amphetamine or anything used earlier when he was talking last class about it. But he really feels like he's better and more awesome than everybody because what is his brain telling him if he's using Adderall? That he is better and more awesome than everybody. Whatever he looks at, he feels more sense of entitlement and power. Which, and again, as a 17-year-old kid, how that guy is, why do you shake your head? It's fun. His friend that he's also taking the class with him is like, yeah, we all see it too. That's what his friend said. And it's interesting because if you're using a substance to change the way that you feel, guess what is causing you? The substance becomes a part of who you are. And that's why it's like, why do people like alcohol? Well, it slows down your thoughts. The problem is what happens when you withdraw from alcohol. 3 o'clock in the morning, boom, full speed, we're back on. The alcohol wears off. But, I mean, so what does Prozac do? The same thing. Prozac blocks the reuptake of transmitters. By blocking the reuptake of transmitters, you have more serotonin in the synapse able to connect to these second messenger systems. When more serotonin is available in the synapse to connect to the second messenger systems, the second messengers can phosphorylate G proteins and grow and change. It's not nearly as violent as actually having a full-on seizure. Because when you have a full-on seizure, good timing, you guys are really struggling with little guys. Okay, when you have a full-on seizure, you're depleting all of your chemicals. But when you take Prozac, what are we doing? We're actually increasing serotonin in very specific places of your brain. The side effects of taking Prozac are significantly less than the side effects of ECT. So, but does Prozac cause a cure of depression? No. The only way to really cure depression is to change your thoughts. Well, no, pretend you're happy all the time. Yay! No, that's like, there's a really great thing about, anybody ever listen to the Hidden Brain podcast in here? Okay, the Hidden Brain is on NPR, and it's a really great podcast. And this last week was about a bunch of comedians that suffer from depression and how they use laughter as a mechanism to deal with their anxiety. And it's a really cool, it's a neat idea because we look for this thing called joy in life. And people that are not happy don't have joy. What is joy? Well, like, I bought coffee this morning. I stole a gift card from my wife that she got as a present, and I had to pay 40 cents for my coffee this morning. I finally used it up. Okay? But it's why get coffee? It's joy. Just that sip of coffee. And I put fat in it. Not my non-fat milk. No, that oil 10W40 that they put there on the counter for it. Yeah, real fat. Just, okay? And so I take a sip of it, and then your brain just goes, if they make it just like a venti cold brew, sweet cream, something, you take a sip and your brain just goes, that's it. That's joy. That little Bit of happiness. Why do people need this little bit of happiness? Okay, go for it, folks, run away. Okay, why do we need this little bit of happiness? Bye. Okay, why do we need happiness? No, you actually do. These little bits of dopamine actually help build mitochondria. The neurotransmitter dopamine, the joy, helps change cells. If you find small pieces of joy in your life, you are generally a happier person. Wow. So those annoying optimist people that look at the world and see how beautiful it is, they're actually happier than you. Okay. This is over. Okay. So the idea of, we're getting kind of philosophical here. Well, we got one synapse. How many synapses are in the brain? Dr. Riley did some math. 1.3 times 10 to the 33 billion possible connections in your brain. If every cell connected to just 100 other cells, 86 billion, each one connecting to 100 other cells, you start to see how complicated this gets. Anywhere along that cell that comes close to another cell, can it form one of these synapses? Anywhere they cross, it can form a synapse. And what that synapse does is that synapse allows the communication from one cell to affect the communication from another cell. Why do you think humans look for pharmaceuticals? Why do we like drugs? Well, it's not immediate fixes, but can a chemical change the way that you think and feel? Yes. Okay? And it's like alcohol. I apologize for my online class. I was reading through the discussions on Saturday night, I think, and I drank some Fireball. I don't drink much. And so I had a Coke with a little Fireball in it. It was so tasty and yummy. It was the black can of Coke, not the red can. We don't do the red can at all. That's the real high fructose corn syrup stuff. We skip that. Anyway, as I'm making comments, I'm like realizing, whoa, I'm a little buzzed. Because, I don't drink much, so a little Red Bull and a Coke is, I'm an easy date. Okay, but it's, when I'm trying to think, what happens when you're under the influence of alcohol? It slows down. And you watch people when they're driving under the influence of alcohol. What happens? Some people don't pay attention to how fast they're going. They just kind of lean their foot on the gas. There was a guy in a Subaru Outback going at flooring it, just full speed up the 805. And the police cars had to go 120, 130 miles an hour just to catch him. And he had no idea how fast he was going. Just put his foot on the floor, like a Subaru Outback, grandpa's car. 120 miles an hour down the freeway. No idea he was going that fast. Because alcohol. The one that I love is when you watch a road that has a curve in it, that you watch the person who's drunk drive to the curve, and then they wait for the last minute and then turn, and then they stay turned, and then they turn back. So you see a lot of people with drunk driving crashes. It's not the first corner that they miss. It's the second corner they miss because they can't correct and change the response in time. So what does alcohol do? Super easy. Be careful. What does alcohol do? We're going to go all the way back here. It lets in chlorine. Alcohol activates GABA receptors. It lets chlorine into the presynaptic cell. By letting chlorine in, what does it do to the frequency, to the IPSPs, or what does it do to the summation of the soma? Okay, wait. Summation means adding up to create an action potential, right? So what does it do to the summation? Slows the summation down. Slows it down. It doesn't stop it unless the alcohol levels are very, very high. Then it can stop actual action potentials. That's not good because which action potentials do you need to live? Breathing reflex. So technically, alcohol poisoning is when someone drinks too much alcohol and they stop breathing. There's a bunch of cases. There's a dad who gave his kid a glass of Jack Daniels, said, "Hey, drink this, you'll be a man." So the kid drank it. I'm cool. Respiratory failure and died because kids shouldn't drink hard alcohol. Adults shouldn't drink hard alcohol, so that's not important. I mean, Fireball is about the limit for me. It's so tasty, though. I want more. Okay, no. So, but it's like cinnamon syrup with a little alcohol mixed in. Yeah, that's spice good. Yeah. Or those little hot balls that you... Yeah, Fireball. I actually made that connection before. But that's what our neighbors got us for Christmas. They gave a Coke, a can of Cokes, and a thing of Fireball. Well, yeah, but if you mix it with stuff, okay, so not to be an alcoholic, but mix it with hot chocolate sometimes. Oh, your blood sugar is going to go like to the roof, but on point. Or hot cider. Yeah, so hot cider, we don't use Fireball, but we use cinnamon, Jack Daniels, cinnamon fire, I don't know, cinnamon bourbon something, I don't know. But you mix it with hot cider, get old enough, and then don't drink. Okay, now, why is this a part of our culture? Why use alcohol as a part of our culture? It's not a part of everybody's culture. Everybody know why it's been used for thousands of years? Someone's taking history. It's because of the problems in the water. Places where people are trying to like sail and go places, how do you keep water fresh so it doesn't make you sick? Alcohol. All the sailors who did a lot of the bad stuff in our world were probably slightly hammered when they were doing all the bad stuff in our world. Cortez and all his crowd, what was he doing? Why did all the guys carry a jar of wine and a jar of water? If you didn't drink the wine, you'd get dysentery from the water. But if anybody's ever been down to Mexico and been in a place that they don't filter the water, what happens if you drink just plain tap water and you don't speak intestinal Spanish? If you speak intestinal Spanish, you're fine. The water has bacteria in it, unless you go somewhere that's filtered. Almost anywhere in the world, you can't drink tap water. But down in Mexico, you go generally to get a beer or a shot of tequila with everything that you're eating. Do you ever get sick if you're drinking while you're eating stuff down there? No. Because the alcohol is enough to kill the bacteria, and that bacteria is what's making you sick. That's why our society's been using alcohol for a long time. And the pirates back in the old days, especially around the Mediterranean, not Mediterranean, that's our Mediterranean, which is the Gulf Coast. Those folks, why did they drink rum? It's a lot stronger than wine. You can carry more water, less alcohol. If anybody's ever tasted wine from back 1,000 years ago, they make it, if you go like any of the museums, you can taste it. It basically tastes like really bad vinegar. Yeah, that's what the wine used to be. It was mostly vinegar with alcohol in it. Yeah. Kombucha. Anyway, but they used to drink a lot of it, and you couldn't really get drunk off it because it made you pretty much sick if you tried to drink too much of it, until they started using rum. Then a lot of the sailors were hammered all the time. Because can you easily get drunk off of rum? No problem. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, but But why do you think people become addicted to alcohol? Like, people, it changes the way that your mind functions and changes the way that normal functions. My dad died from alcoholism, so I don't drink very much. I know that if like I have a drink, that's sufficient. My wife and I went out kombucha tasting this weekend. Okay, so we had our little tasters. Did I finish all my little tasters? No. I finished the blood orange mint one. That was tasty. But the rest of them, I don't like the jalapeno. Anyway, but I taste them all, but I'm not going to sit and hammer them all because I have a consciousness of my dad dying when he's 52. I'm turning 50 this year. Ooh. Yikes, scary. Okay, so now, getting back to the main point of this. One cell, one synapse, 2 or 3 milliseconds of behavior so far in the past. So how are we supposed to talk about the entire brain? Well, so every single part of the brain works exactly the same way. So if you just multiply this times 1.3 times 10 to the 33 billion times, you understand how the brain works. No problem. Get going. Okay, so I'm going to scroll up a little bit. And next class, if I can figure out a time to make Play-Doh between today or tomorrow while packing for the trip, we're going to build brains in here. Okay? And the reason why we do this is that I did this in my winter session class with my intro students. They didn't do as well. But for y'all, let me see, there's about 40 people in here. So I've got a big tub of Play-Doh already that's blue. It's like a seafoam blue-green color. So I need 4 basic other colors to make. I'm trying to think of how much more Play-Doh I actually need to make. Does anybody know how to make Play-Doh in here? Not the point of the kid person who works with kids. No, not Oobleck. No. Last year, when my wife was cleaning out a school, we actually found a giant box of modeling clay. Right? Yeah, well, they were basically throwing it out. So anything that was cool, yoink. And so the problem with the modeling clay, everybody's hands were stained afterwards. It was like real clay. So the Play-Doh stuff is great. This is how you make it. You see how I Googled it? Not even spelled right? Okay. This is the stuff that I'm making. It's super easy to make. If anybody wants to make Play-Doh, let me know. Or I will try to make as many as I can. I'll probably have time to make a few. The last time I made Play-Doh, my wife caught me making Play-Doh. If you're making Play-Doh. No, I'm not. It's stew. You can also use it as carp bait. You remember playing with the Play-Doh? Yeah. And it's still good. It didn't dry out. It's still like squishy. Good. Okay. I will bring in Play-Doh for next class. What should you try to learn?